Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and today I thought I'd take you through the home garage to build everything. Alright guys, welcome back, and many of you have seen me do lots of videos on all sorts of different types of fabrication and just work in general. And everything is done out of here. Now, you've seen me build the Ferrari from the ground up, from a rusty Hulk all the way through to the finished product and every single aspect. So I thought I'd go through a bunch of things I learned about building this workshop and building a workshop that can do everything, that works for all of your purposes and is sort of universal. So let me start by just covering what this is. I have the luxury, of course, that I live in a semi-rural area on just over half an acre, 2,500 square meters, and I had some space to build a decent sized home garage. Now, this garage itself is 7 meters wide by 12 meters deep by 2.7 meters to the eaves. You always want bigger. No matter how big you go, it's never going to be big enough. So that is my first tip, is you always want to go as big as you can. And I am already sort of outgrowing this space, even though I know it's way bigger than probably what most of you are dealing with. But you can still take, hopefully, a bunch of tips out of this video on things you can do to hopefully improve your own workspace. And things I would do differently, even in a smaller space, if you can go higher. As many of you may have seen, I lifted the Ferrari into the beam above and dented the roof because I didn't get it higher. At least 3 meters is good. Sometimes you're limited by space, but if you're building from scratch and you can go higher, think height. If you can go 3.6 meters, you can potentially have a half decent mezzanine for storage. And storage is one of the things that's killing me. Next thing to talk about is the floor. When I had this shed built, I had to wait an entire month without using it, which is so hard to do, so I could do this 2-part epoxy on the floor. And besides this front area here, it's held up really well. I decided to go a flat grey because I thought it would look neater and cleaner than the flakes. That was a mistake. I definitely should have gone the flakes, because as you can see now, this has got, particularly in the front here where I do the most work and I'm really hard on the floor, it's got some chips and stuff, but overall it still makes it much easier to clean. Raw concrete is a nightmare. It's always dusty, it soaks in oil, and it's not a great look. I do recommend this floor, even though it is showing signs of wear, it's still pretty good for the amount of abuse it gets. All right, so this is my main workbench. Now, this has evolved over the time that I've been here. It was wood storage under here a long time ago, and I eventually moved all the wood out. It wasn't great welding over the top of wood, but it's all sealed. I have built this out of plywood. It's a 18, 19 mil, what's it, 3/4 inch plywood, I think, top, and then a 6 mil metal plate that I put on the top of it. It is super hard. I can bash and belt on this all day. If I did it again, I would build it on wheels so that I can move it in and out, still keep wall space behind, and have some shelves or something, but have it so that I could push it and tuck it out of the way and still get cars in, instead of making it fixed to the wall. But it's there, and I haven't got time at the moment to redo it. So that is my main workbench that you see in most of the videos. So as the main workspace, I have just upgraded to a much bigger drill press. I've been struggling with a little one for a long time, and this should be one of the first things that you get in your workshop. If you're going to get any tools and you're doing automotive work, drilling metal with a hand drill is a nightmare. This is absolutely worth having a drill press. Even that little basic one, which I've been struggling with for years, is way better than not having one. It is worth the investment, and I said, I've used this all the time, and I finally sucked it up and bought myself a newer, much better drill press. There's much better than this, but having a good drill press is a must. As far as the bench surface itself, trying to have nothing on the bench is good. I did have drill bits and stuff on the bench in the past, and I found that it'd get covered in dust, and to try and, or even metal shavings and stuff, to try and clean it up is really difficult. I've got a couple of blocks here which I just use to drill through, which I can lift up and clean under quite easily, but the drill bits I have hanging on the edge, close at hand, right next to the drill press. And I did for ages have all of my clamps, which are now up the back here. I had them on the front of the bench just because it was an easy place to clamp them onto. But again, I couldn't clean around them, and so it'd just get covered in filth. So that is a tip, is to hang things up out of the way where you can, and having the clamps up there, I can still get to them. I don't use them very often, so for me, that's a good spot for them. Again, at the back, I've got some welding clamps back here, and having a dustpan and broom handy whenever you need it is vital. A must for every workshop, and I've got it on a hook here, close at hand, easy to get to. And then moving down, I always have power cords ready to go. Everything in the workshop is plugged in and ready to go at any time. I don't want to always have to fight and try and find a lead. I want a lead ready to go all the time. So this is my angle grinder. It's on a long lead and it's ready to go all the time. Cordless angle grinders, all hooking on this rail that I had. It's just scrap that I had lying around, making sure that everything is close at hand and easy to get to it all the time. So moving further down along the bench, I have two vices on my bench. Now, I got this vise, which is really handy because it can spin in all different directions and hold all sorts of things. But when I got it, I had a lot of comments letting me know that the spindle in the bottom of this is not very strong. So this is not one that is very good for holding things and bashing at them. Whereas this chunky old vise is very solid. I can bash away at things all day. It's not going to break. It's not going to be damaged, but less usable because it's in one spot. I can unbolt it and turn it around if I absolutely have to, but it's a pain. Basically, that's where it sits. If I need to hold things at weird angles, this has got this one. Underneath the bench, I have my world-class welders. I have my TIG welder is, again, plugged in. The gas bottles are down underneath, so I can turn the gas on. It's plugged in. I have my torch on the bench on the magnetic stand, and I found this is the best way for me with the TIG welder. Because I do most of my detailed TIG welding on the bench, I found it was easier to have it here than on a cart. And I can still do things just over near it if I need to, sort of pull it out. But 99% of the time, I do it on the bench. So it has the ground clamp on the bench already and ready to go at all times. I have the helmet just clipped on underneath the bench, and also I have a dust face shield under the bench. I prefer these to using safety glasses. For me, I can see better. The safety glasses always get scratched up because I'm rough with everything, and this I can see better, and it also protects me from getting other stuff just flicked at my face. But you do have to be careful because you can get stuff up from underneath. Under the bench, I've got a bin, rubbish bin. Is always necessary to have them around the workshop. Having a couple around the place where you're working and just clean them regularly. Definitely need to have that ready to go. On the rest of my bench, I have my grinding mask. Again, I don't like just using a face shield if I'm grinding. I found that when I was using cutting discs and grinding blades, my nose at the end of the day would be full of black gunk, and I'm concerned that I want to be able to keep doing this for a long time. So I found these face shields are really good with the, they've got 3M filters on them, so I'm not breathing in horrible stuff, eyes protected, and so I use that all the time. In the back, in the middle here, I have all of my hardware. Everything is labeled, and this is the best. I absolutely love having fresh new hardware to put on everything, so I'm not dealing with crusty old nuts and bolts. It's a bit of an investment to get started, but once you've got it, you only just have to top it up every now and then. You can get sort of the kit boxes that have got a bunch of bits and pieces in it. Moving on, a bunch of other little bits and pieces that I've just got stored around the place. I keep all my cutting discs on a bugle bolt up the back. I love these bugle screws. I have a bunch of them. All of my benches are held together with them. They are just really good, heavy duty, much better than a regular wood screw. And so whenever I'm redoing infrastructure, I'm using primarily bugle screws with the impact. It makes it so easy to put them on and off. And yeah, most of my things are made out of them. And they also make a really good hook, just screwing them in. They've got this nice bugle flared end on it. Makes doing quick infrastructure changes really quick and easy. One of the very coolest things that I saw in another video a while ago now that I stole and used straight away is this little tip here. So I actually have unclip and I have my bench grinder plugged in, the cables. The cable is tucked in and connected up in the back, already on. Like everything else, it's ready to go. And because I built on these hinges, I can just flip it up and it's completely ready to go. And when I'm finished, I just stick it back underneath and I just have a little piece of wire coming down to clip it on. And that's a fantastic tip. All right, moving along, I've got my MIG cart. I find having the MIG on the cart is perfect because most of the stuff I need to do over on the hoist or elsewhere in the workshop, I find the cart is really good. Again, I pull it out. It has the gas bottle on the back and it has enough power cord that's already connected up. It's already plugged in, ready to go. So I can just wheel it out, connect it up, nice and quick and easy. No messing around trying to find cables and stuff like that. In behind, down the bottom, I've got all of my Penrite oils and stuff like that. Again, another great sponsor. And then my spray cans and stuff. Again, I probably shouldn't have it as close to the welding bench, but that's the way I have them because they're close at hand where I use it all the time. And of course, Project Binky on a loop because every workshop needs Project Binky on a loop. So further back here is tool storage. Stuff that I rarely use is up high and the stuff that I use all the time is much lower. Some hardware storage, and then I've redone everything so that now this is the storage for the bits that I'm working on at the time. One of the big tips you need to think about is everything needs a place. If it doesn't have a place, it just goes onto a horizontal surface sitting and waiting to go somewhere. And that is how the mess starts and it just gets worse and worse. So if you can make a place for everything, as soon as you get it, which is extremely difficult and I don't follow my own rules, but if you do, then it makes it so much easier to organize and have things worked out. Now, you might not have as much space, but you can still cram in a lot. I have my my bench sander plugged in, turned on. I use this all the time. It is super handy. And the drop saw, bandsaw, to be honest, I don't actually use it that much. It is handy to have, but I don't get to use it very often. Continue to move around from where we were, and we've got the spray booth. Now, when I started, I didn't have a spray booth, and then I built the booth out of the gazebo, which was not a bad option because I always thought I would pull it down and put it up as I needed, and I never did. So I decided it'd be much better to build something solid, and so now I have storage on the top, which is mostly full of junk, but it has storage on there. It's very narrow because I don't have a very tall roof space. But I built this booth as a great, easy way to paint, and even though I just want to pull something out and just paint one or two little things, it's so handy to be able to do that. So going through, I have these bifold doors, which are just hollow core doors that I have just hinged together, and they pull over close to about 2/3 of the way, and then I have this clear plain pane door for the other part. All these wires on the roof are so I can hang things when I paint them, and getting good lighting is a must. This has got some I evolved over time. I had these horrible stick-on LED lights. They didn't work very well. It was very dim. I managed to get a bunch of better LED lights, and then I got these tube lights as well. Thankfully, these days, LED lights are getting much, much cheaper. These down lights are not actually that good, but as much light as you can get in a booth is super handy. The way I built the booth is this is the inlet filter. So I have a fan blowing in. It's set up again all the time on one switch. So I turn it on, it'll blow the air in there, and then on the diagonally opposite corner, there's the same size fan to suck it out. The inlet pumps air in and the exhaust sucks the air out, and they have the same size orange duct fans on either side, but just the way it works, it's more efficient blowing the air in than it is sucking it out. I worked that out through trial and error, and that's what you want. You want a positive pressure situation, so you want more pressure in here than just trying to suck out, because if it's only an exhaust fan, then you're going to suck dirt and dust in from every orifice, where if you've got more pressure inside, it's pushing everything out through every gap. And even though I've tried to make this reasonably sealed, it's not completely airtight, and it works really well. Set up in the back with a separate hose reel plumbed in, but being able to just close the doors and paint stuff whenever I need to is absolutely fantastic. So personal door going straight into the back of the booth. I have my painting station, just a bench, storage underneath with my cordless tools, and just having a place to mix, paint, and a place specifically. It's not a very big bench, but it's just enough to mix paint and make a mess and keep it to one spot. I also have air lines plumbed in with my air compressor, which is out the back. I built its own soundproof shed for it. I'll put a link up above so you can have a look at that. Air compressors are horrible to listen to. They make a lot of noise, and it's good having it outside. The regulator inside here with the air trap, getting a bit further away from the compressor. The further away you get it, the better it works. Right next to the door, this is my brake. Now this is at one of the 3-in-1 machines. It does 3 different things. It folds the sheet metal here. It has a guillotine blade at the bottom to slice the sheet metal, and then it has the rollers at the top to roll it. Does 3 things. All 3 things quite badly. It's not a great machine. It's way better than not having anything. The guillotine is pretty much useless unless you're cutting something very small. The rollers still bend a little bit in the middle, so you don't get a super great bend, and the brake is the only real thing I really use it for, and even that is not great, but it's better than trying to bend it by hand. So do I recommend them? Not really. If you can afford to get individual machines, they are much better to invest in, but this will get you out of trouble in a pinch. Then across the back, I have 3 of these cabinets. If you can, closed door cabinets is so much better than open shelving. Open shelves get dust and everything gets covered in junk. It's much better to have closed cabinets, and mine are always filthy, but yeah, I've got a bunch of tools and things up in the plastic boxes up there, and just bits and pieces. This one is sort of an automotive tool section. This is more sandpapers and rags and things like that, and then the this last one is paints, etc. Continuing around, this is my favorite new tool. So tucked into the corner of my shed, I now have the CNC plasma table. It is absolutely fantastic, cutting out. I use it to cut out all sorts of things. Being able to just quickly design something up in CAD and cut it out is definitely a game changer. So this is not exactly home hobbyist level yet, but they are getting cheaper, and actually there's more and more options every day on being able to get this stuff, these sort of things for home use. I didn't have it set up very well for ages, but now I've got it set up properly with the world-class plasma cutter up on the top here, so I can just run my airline out. I never leave airlines connected, but power and everything else is always connected. Airlines always tend to leak the fittings, but yeah, the CNC plasma table, love it. So moving on from the plasma table, I've got what remains of this bench. This bench used to go all the way down this wall, and I always thought this was where I would work on it. When I first set up my garage, this is the plan I had, and I never ended up using it. I always worked all the way down the front of the garage and never worked in the back here, so it became redundant, and I cut out bits. So I cut out a bit to fit the plasma and gradually gotten rid of it, so there's not that much left. In front of it though, I have this fantastic old guillotine. It's about 100 years old, and it is absolutely fantastic. To have one of these is quite a treat, but I make good use of that. Now, unfortunately, I have my engine crane and my gearbox hoist for the lift. They just always sort of hover around here because it's a bit of a dead space, and I can sort of crawl in between it to get in to use the buff, which again, I don't use that often, and the lathe. Now, having a lathe is a game changer. It is so much more useful than I ever thought it would be. I've got this terrible bench. Never make benches out of MDF because MDF always warps and bows. Use plywood, but having this old lathe is a fantastic addition to the shop, and I use it all the time. It is so handy. So something I'd like to mention is don't be afraid to use the middle of the space. Everybody wants to use the walls, and you find out you run out of wall space very, very quickly. And by building false rooms really helps. So I have my big toolbox here for all my automotive tools, and I've actually set it up to create this wall. So I have places to tuck things behind it. I could actually build shelving up behind here, and by building separate rooms, so if you like, I've got this sort of small room here with the guillotine sort of cutting it off, and then another room in the back here. It just gives me more space and more places to utilize the area that I've got. Another thing that I built a long time ago, which I don't really use much anymore, but the concept was good, is I have my wood rack up the top here, and particularly when I'm doing a lot of home renos and stuff like that, I'd keep all of my timber up here, and I built it so that it is tall enough that I'm never going to hit my head on it, but I can easily reach everything that's up here. It is built for me. I'm 5'8", 172 centimeters on a good day, tall, and this is tall enough for me. So if you're 6 foot, you're smashing your head into this, but this is my workshop built for me, and you should do the same with your own. Think about making things that are ergonomically good for you. You don't need to build it for other people if it's just you working in the shed. So that is one of my tips. So working my way back down from the back corner, I have another old cabinet I've got that I have full of electrical gear. It's a mess, but that's all in there. A ladder that I can pull out quickly and climb up and get to the top of the booth, where I have a lot of just storage up there. Now, this is an amazing little thing I got from Adam Savage. If you haven't seen his channel, Adam Savage from Mythbusters, most people keep spools of wire on a pole. The trouble is, if you want to grab the middle bit of wire and take it with you, you can't. But having this basic little V-frame made out of scraps with a perspex front end so I can see what's in there, you can just drill some holes in it, poke the wire through. If I want to pull some wire out, I pull it out. It doesn't keep spinning and unraveling. I can just cut off a bit, and if I want to take the whole reel with me, I can take it with me. It's the best method I have seen for keeping wire. Fantastic tip. The sandblaster, I don't use this very often, but it's just one of those things that's not overly expensive and sort of handy to have. Often it's a real pain to see through it. There are a lot of hacks to make them better, but I don't use it often enough to do anything like that with it. Again, a parts washer. It's really handy when you need to do that, but again, I don't do as much mechanical work. I don't really use it very often, so generally it just ends up being piled up with junk because it's a horizontal surface, and every horizontal surface gets covered in junk. So underneath the sandblaster and the parts washer, instead of being just a useless shelf, I actually made this metal rack. So it's just using a bit of grid wire and built a very basic steel frame, and it's just got lots of different slots so that I can put in all sorts of metal stock. It is fantastic to be able to utilize every part of the shed to work for you. All right, so I've got my nice big tool chest, and it's got all of the different stickers and stuff that people have sent through to me. I really love having that there. And going through, I label every shelf. I know it's my stuff. Every single thing in the workshop is labeled. So I know what's in every single drawer. So I can just pull it out and know, okay, yeah, this is my socket drawer. They're not all super clean, but they have, you know, I've got some on frame racks and then other stuff chucked around. This one is particularly bad, just bits and pieces chucked in. But I know what's in every single one as soon as I get there. So I know, is it the second one down the third? Is it that one? No, it's the other one. Label everything. Again, something that kicks around on the floor that is a bit of a pain and takes up a lot of space, but really handy sometimes. These little jack wheel dollies to move around a dead car, particularly in a small space. They're really, really handy. So back into the front bays of the workshop, and in the center, hanging off the booth, I've got this retractable hose reel. Having these retractable hose reels is fantastic. I can just grab it whenever. So I've got the one here and then a second one in the booth. This one can pivot around and go sort of anywhere in the workshop. So again, super handy. Using less in the way of air tools these days. Most of the cordless stuff is way better, but when I need it, as a blower, for paint gun, for some of the few air tools I still use, well worthwhile. The next thing is a hoist. A hoist is got to be the cheapest extra car storage you ever could buy. You're only looking at a sort of a couple of $1,000s Australian these days to get a two-post hoist. And if you can fit it in your garage, they are an absolute game changer. Now, this one is the only one I could find that fit under 2.7. It just fits at 2.7 meters. Most of them tend to be 2850, I think. So again, it's a good reason why you need a higher roof space. But you can get, I think there's Max Jacks, I think is the company. You can get removable ones that stand only about yay high, that you can just have the fittings in the ground. You can go and bolt them down and then lift a car up in a lower space and have a two-post lift. So if your ceiling is much lower, you've got a flat ceiling or whatever, there are still options to get a car up off the ground. Even if it can only get it up to here, it's so much better than just getting it on jack stands. So that is, a hoist is a fantastic addition. The other thing that I really like I did is I added these lights on all the way around the hoist. They still have enough clearance so that the hoist can go up and down, but when I'm under the car, I can flick them on and I have a little bit of light there. It's still always going to be dark under the car, but because obviously the overhead lights are blocked by the car, having something underneath is really good. All right, and over here next to the personnel door, when I come in and out of the garage, I have my charging station. I like having it right next to the door, so as I go in and out, I can see what's charged. I don't like leaving the big batteries and stuff on charge. So having it all here, all in one spot, rather than having chargers all over the place, really works for me. I've got my cameras charging, a lot of my rechargeable lights and stuff, even my jumper pack. Everything is in one handy location. So this is by far my favorite creation for garage storage that I have done. I use this every day because I deliberately took all of the tools that I use the absolute most and arranged them all around this very cheap, nasty mobile cart. So I built this little frame on the side with like there's a piece of broom pole, but it's basically like a curtain rod. And I have my range of different hammers that I use. These are absolutely fantastic. These are Knipex, can't remember the actual name, I'll put a link down here. These things, I will never use a shifter spanner again. These are fantastic. So the teeth come in parallel, so they're adjustable to whatever size, and if you're undoing a nut or a bolt, even with a shifter, if you tighten it up, you still have a little bit of slop. With these, when you grab hold of it, you're squeezing on it, so the more you're trying to turn a nut or a bolt, these will squeeze even tighter. So I use these more than open-ended spanners or ring spanner. I use them for everything. They're so quick and handy, quick and easy to adjust up to even massive sizes. And I cannot recommend these things highly enough. I've got a big one and a little one. The little one's not really as useful as this one. This is good. They're expensive, but they're really, really good. Hammers, different pliers, etc. I use. Air blowers are all here. And then I've got a Stanley knife on the end, ready to go, that just hooks onto the end of the pole. I've got a little clip, so I've got a tape measure that just clips onto the edge there. If I spin around, on this side I have all my T-handle Allens ready to go. I lost my 4mm, I should upgrade them for another set. And a whole range of screwdrivers that are here ready to go at all times, super handy. And then on the far end, I have my little 12-volt tools. Now, I do have the 18-volt stuff, but I find it's really big and heavy, and these things are actually better than I originally gave them credit for. I've got individual holders for them. I did make 3D printed ones at one stage and they broke, so I just got little bits of old exhaust pipe and cut and made their own little holders. And all of these have a spot, so I can just pull them out, and then with the sockets, I've got the range of the 3/8 inch sockets sitting on the top there, so I can just grab them out and use them straight away at any time. They have their own little spots, which is so handy, having all these tools where you want it. And I still have the top of the cart, so that I can wheel this around to where I'm working and have a place to store other stuff. It usually gets full of junk and other tools, but having all this here, and of course another piece of exhaust pipe in the corner where I've got scissors and pens and paint pens and hole punches and that sort of stuff. I cannot recommend making one of these carts up yourself. It is such a useful piece of gear to be able to cart around and do automotive work on a car. Everything that I use all the time is here and easy to get to, and any other tools you chuck in the top. One of the other things I didn't mention is lighting. I've got a whole bunch of cheap LED lighting. The trouble is that some of them really annoy me because the cheap ones seem to buzz and you get this horrible buzzing noise. So not all of them, but there's a couple of them that are particularly bad. All right, hopefully some of you got something out of that. It's only a quick overview of the workshop. There is so much here that I use for all different types of purposes. If there are any takeaways, I would say everything is always changing. I plan this shop out multiple times, and as my uses change, as I get different tools and all these sort of things, the workshop has been evolving, and I think you should always take some time out. I like to try and do it sort of New Year every year, is try and just go through, give everything a good clean up, pull everything down, throw stuff away. Don't be afraid to throw away. I just gave a bunch of tools and things to mates that I know that I'm never going to use again because I have better ones, or they're redundant or whatever. Purge, it definitely helps, gives you more space, particularly when it's limited. But ultimately, make sure that everything has a place. If everything has a place, then you won't have junk lying around. Try not to leave anything on the floor. I don't follow that rule, but it's a great rule to have. If you can try and make everything have a place and not just be sitting on the floor, that is a fantastic rule. Put everything on wheels. Everything you can possibly put on wheels, put on wheels. Get casters so you can move it around and you can change things. You can move it out to clean it. It just makes your life so much easier. Label everything. You might know what everything is because it's yours, but it just saves that split second every time. When you start, you might only have one black plastic box with a tool in it. Trust me, those black plastic boxes seem to expand, and then you've got like 4 or 5 of them sitting next to each other. Instead of looking through all of them to find the one you're looking for, having it labeled just makes life so much easier. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. I really love organising and reorganising my garage. Great channels to check out. As I mentioned, Adam Savage is a fantastic resource. He works on way more varied projects and stuff than I do, and he has a small space that he's really made work for every single thing, and he is continually redoing his workshop to make things more efficient. Try and think about the things you use every day and make them the easiest things to access, and the things that you use weekly, put there, and then things you use monthly, put up there, or yearly or whatever, and have them the hardest things to get to, so that the easy access stuff is the stuff you use all the time. Now, if you guys have any tips of yours, please mention them in the comments. I love finding out new tips and tricks, so hopefully you'll get something out of this, and we'll see you on the next one. See you guys.